like we have about 6 of you in here. Sounds good to me. You can get this show on the road. We're going to be talking about digital signing tools, basics, and best practices. Um, Digital signing is very important, whether you're in ZipForm, whether you're in Transact. And we're going to be going over the basics and the best practices of both of those things. I think that this latest iteration of our Lone Wolf signing platform, Authentisign, is the best one that they've ever had. I think that it's very, very usable, workable, and it does literally everything that DocuSign does. And it's part of your member benefit, so we're not paying anything out of pocket for it. I believe in it. My name's Jackson Baudelaire. I am the Senior Transaction and Training Supervisor here at the California Association of Realtors. I've been a realtor myself since 2009. I love real estate. I think it's a great career. It's done me and my family quite well. But what I'm very passionate about is educating realtors like yourselves to make sure that you are confident, competent, and efficient in this ZipForm and Transact software that is so vital to our business. This is where we get our forms, it's where we manage our transactions. And today we're going to be talking about digital signing tools. Now, before we get too far in, I do need to mention the CAR Real Estate Mediation Center for Consumers. The CAR Dispute Resolution Center is designed specifically for real estate, for real estate professionals. The service provides mediation and arbitration options that can help resolve conflicts quickly, fairly, and at a fraction of the cost of going to court. Using the center not only saves time and money, but also preserves the professional relationships by focusing on solutions instead of blame. It's important that realtors and their clients are aware of this resource when disputes do arise during transactions, which happens. We don't want it to, but it does happen. You can reach out to them at the website, by email, or by phone. Definitely consider those. On the agenda, we're going to talk about how the digital signing platforms work. We're going to talk about the difference between the two platforms. They're very similar, but we're going to talk about some of the slight differences. How to use outside forms in our signings, things that are not going to tag automatically for us. How do we integrate our templates into that workflow? And general best practices for both systems, whether we're talking about ZipForm or Transact. Now, one piece of information that I can give you is, if you're not aware, the version of Authentisign that we have been using inside of ZipForm for the last couple of years is the exact same module that's in Transact. So there is no learning curve when it comes to using Authentisign, whether you're starting from Zip or starting from Transact. We've been using the new Authentisign for a long time now. That was actually the first piece of this new platform that we were introduced to, and they linked it to ZipForm so that we would already have a working knowledge and a working understanding of how Authentisign works. So all of the buttons are the same, the functions are the same, because it is the same module. You've noticed that when you start a packet in ZipForm, it takes you into Authentisign, and from Transact, it takes you into the exact same Authentisign. So there's not going to be a lot of new that you need to learn. Getting into Authentisign from both platforms, slightly different, very, very similar, but slightly different. Let's talk about some of the additional resources that are available to you as a realtor in California. We have 5 monthly webinars. CIR puts on 5 monthly webinars: do basics, advanced, paperless transactions, digital signature, and an open office hours. Office hours has become very popular. It's a very loosely structured webinar. We want people to bring their questions. And on that same topic of questions, the chat is turned off in the webinar, but the Q&A is very much open. This is how you and I are going to communicate with each other. If there's a question that you have about the topic we're going over, something similar to the topic that we're on, if you want me to repeat something, that Q&A box is what we're going to use. We have a relatively small group right now. There's 7 people in here. We will definitely be able to get to the questions on the fly. This is a 90-minute session. We have about an hour 20 still in here. Definitely ask those questions. If you have a question, I can almost guarantee that someone else has a very similar question or something along the same vein. Maybe they don't know how to word what they're trying to ask for, but the more questions, the more interactive we can make this, the better it's going to be for everybody in here, including myself. I can go through this material in my sleep. I promise you. I want to get your noodly questions. Now we have an agenda. We have an A to B to C that I'd like to follow, but let's keep this interesting. If there's something that I can answer in this process of getting from contract to signed, definitely ask me. All of our webinars that you can find on that link on Carter.org are recorded, and you'll get a link to the recording 24 hours later, even if you don't attend. So as long as you register for the webinar, you will get a link to the recording. This web address here has not only the upcoming registration links, but also the past 60 days of recordings. We try our best to keep it as updated as possible. I usually update it at the beginning and at the end of the month. Sometimes I'm not great at that, but there's always at least a month of recordings and at least a month up ahead of new registration links. We have a customer contact center at CAR as well. They are available 8:30 to 4:45 during the week. The contact center at CAR is the intersection between support and training. Now, let's talk about that real quick. Support is when something is broken. You're getting an error message, you're missing a library, there's something wrong in your account. Training is when you don't know how to do something. And sometimes the realtors that call in that I end up talking to are a little bit confused about whether they need training or support. When you call into the contact center and it's clearly a training issue, they're going to get you a PDF guide, a video, like a webinar recording, a zip tip. I've made about 50 YouTube videos. They're all 2-3 minutes long, very hyper focused on features. We're going to get you to the resource and training that you need to answer your question. Or if something is broken, the contact center will they will submit a ticket on your behalf to Lone Wolf. They get your account fixed. 99.9% of the problems that people call in with are user error. Honest to God, user error. You clicked on something you weren't supposed to. You didn't click on something that you were supposed to. And we can generally get you back on track and moving forward within a couple of minutes. But there are times that we do need to submit a ticket to Lone Wolf. If you're missing an MLS, for some reason, you're getting a weird error message. And those are the times that I'll usually jump on a Zoom call with you for a couple minutes. We'll do a screen share. I can take my screenshots. I can usually help you through the problem, but if I need to, I'll send the recording and whatever assets I have, the documentation I've gotten from your side, and I'll get it to Lone Wolf and they'll fix your problem within a couple minutes. That's why we're here. We are the liaison between you, the member, and Lone Wolf, the software company. We know how to articulate your issues to get them fixed most effectively, most efficiently. That's the relationship. That's why I'm here. And I'm the supervisor, the senior supervisor for training here at CAR. And we're going to talk about digital signatures today. All right, let's jump into Zip and let's talk about some foundational knowledge here. The base for every transaction, in my opinion, is a transaction template. And it's important that we understand how these templates can be used. We'll talk very briefly about templates in Zip. We're going to talk about templates in Transact, and then let's actually apply a template to a real transaction. Let's see what that process looks like. So in Zip, when we look at our templates here, we can see there are a few things I want to point out to you. I have a purchase template here. This is a purchase of residential. This is also an auto template, meaning that whenever I choose purchase as the type of transaction and I choose residential as the category, this template will automatically apply. The same goes for my listing template. Anytime I start a listing and it's residential, this template will automatically apply. Now, this is nice. This is very helpful that it automatically applies. Auto templates did not carry over into Transact. There are no auto applied templates in Transact. And the reason why was because the overwhelming feedback from realtors across the country, Canada and US, was that the auto templates were a problem. People didn't know how to use them. People misused them. And in turn, were very, very frustrated. Now, templates are a folder with documents and information that we're prepping ahead of time to make the process of getting that next transaction started that much quicker. But we don't put specifics into a template. We don't work out of templates. We work out of transactions and we apply templates to a real transaction. The details are in the transaction. The template is just the starting point. It's the rubber stamp, if you will, and it has the carve outs for where we want things to be. So in my purchase template, in my listing template, there are no addresses, there are no client names, there's no prices, there's no specific terms for any particular property or transaction. What I do have is my information, my broker affiliation. I have a few check boxes and placeholder details that are going to be generally applicable in perpetuity. So what do I mean by that? In my purchase template, in my listing template, the first page of the RLA or the RPA is the agency disclosure form. I have the buyer box checked in my purchase template. I have the seller box checked in my listing template. I've pre-checked a few boxes that will always be checked. And then I don't ever have to remember to check those boxes. I've also created some organization for myself. I have some folders before submission. I have after acceptance. In my listing template, I have listing documents, closing documents, photos. I have a folder for offers. There's a subfolder for counter offers. I'm setting myself up for success. And then like I said, on the RLA, the first page is the agency disclosure, and I have that the seller box checked. I don't ever have to think about that box ever again. When I have two sellers, which is not always, I will check that box in the transaction, not in the template. I will add that second buyer's name in the transaction, not in the template. We don't put specifics into templates. This is why auto templates did not carry over into Transact, because people would call in at least once a week and say, hey, I'm writing up an offer. A buyer from 3 offers ago keeps popping up into the contract. It's so frustrating. I keep deleting it from the contract, but it keeps popping up in other places. That means to me, what I hear is that you created a template, you set it to automatically apply, and you put a bunch of specific information into the template. So now every time you start that offer, all of that information, that specific, not applicable information anymore, is going to apply to all of your transactions, and you're going to tear your hair out. So because of that, because people didn't really grasp how and why to use those auto templates, the automatic templates didn't carry over. So a template is a folder with documents and information that we've prepped ahead of time to make it that much quicker to get the contract started, to get the transaction started. In Transact, they've simplified things quite a bit. So as you can see, we're in zip form right now. I'm looking at my template here. We still have all of the checklists and party information and documents, and there's a bunch of buttons up here. There's a lot of things that we can do with the paperwork and with the parties and with the checklist and all that. Transact has made things much simpler because the feedback, and again, almost every one of the decisions for this new Transact platform have been a product of user feedback. So when I look at templates in Transact, there's a name, there's a date that it was modified, and that's it. We're not seeing a lot of ancillary information here. When I open up my buyer template, which again, I named buyer template, but this template system inside of Transact is agnostic of agnostic of any transaction type. I can apply a buyer template to a listing transaction and it's going to work the same way. The parties will be wrong, and I wouldn't do that. But the only things that my template contain are paperwork, parties, and to-dos, which are tasks. Okay. Very simple stuff. Not a lot of menus, not a lot of buttons to click on. We're just simply adding paperwork, we're adding parties, we're adding to-dos, and we're moving on. You'll notice that in my parties here, I have Stacy, my TC. I don't have myself in there. One of the things that I always trained on in Zip is that we add ourselves to our transaction so that we don't have to add ourselves in the transaction. Transact is smart enough to know if I'm starting a purchase transaction, I'm going to be the buyer's agent. If I'm starting a listing, I'm going to be the listing agent. If it's a lease, I'm the tenant's agent. If it's a lease listing, I am the housing provider's agent. It knows intelligently who I'm representing by the type of transaction that I'm creating. But I want my TC, my admin, to be a party to the transaction immediately when I start that new transaction. So I'm adding Stacy's information to my template under the parties so that as soon as I start a transaction and I apply this template, her information will be in there. And this is helpful for when we start a signature packet. We can CC our transaction coordinator very easily. We don't have to add a whole new party to the transaction every single time we get in there. It's just already in there. For the listing side, if I have a co-listing agent that I generally am always listing with, maybe I'll put my co-list into my template. And so they'll just automatically be there when I start the transaction. I am in the school of thought that I would rather have someone in my template, like a co-list or an admin. And if I need to delete them from the one-off transaction that doesn't include them, that's a hell of a lot easier, in my opinion, than adding them every single time. It's better to just have them there. I'm a big proponent of placeholders. We don't have placeholder document placeholders in Transact. That didn't carry over from Zip, but we do have things like this. To me, this is a placeholder. I have a spot for my TC. If the transaction doesn't require having my TC or my admin in there, I'll delete them in the transaction, but I would much rather them be there right off the bat than them not be there. Now, in Zip, we had to-dos that were linked to a calendar. They were linked to tasks and due dates, and we had documents that we were attaching to them. The to-dos, the tasks, if you will, have been simplified in Transact. We can add a to-do, we can give it a due date, give it some detail, some notes, and then we can set a reminder. So we can have a due date as well as a reminder. On the task level, we can say, okay, this is due on the 5th of the month, but I want to be reminded about it on the 1st of the month. So we can set task level reminders that are different for every task if we want to. In Zip, we were kind of resigned to having one specific time frame. So for every due date, I want to get notified 2 days before the due date, but I couldn't change that or adjust that on a task level. It was for the entire account. So that is something that has been added that I think is a positive. I have a task in here: get the pre-approval, get the proof of funds. Pre-approval looks like I set it to 15 days after the offer acceptance date, which doesn't really make sense. I want this to be due on the offer date, and I'll get a reminder. So as soon as I put this in here, it's going to become overdue because I have a reminder for 2 days prior. Maybe I'll just remove the reminder. So now I have get the pre-approval, get the proof of funds. They're both due on the offer date. I have a closing to do that says call the lender. Call the lender doesn't have a due date. Maybe I do want it to have a due date. I want it to be due on the offer acceptance date. So when this gets accepted, I want to be reminded to call the lender and let them know that the offer got accepted. So now all of my tasks have due dates. I have a schedule inspections 2 days after the offer acceptance. So I have some that are hinging on the offer date, some that are hinging on the offer acceptance date. This is the way that we use this. It's helpful. Okay. Now that I've moved around some of my to-dos, I've added my parties, I have documents in here. You'll notice that some of the documents I have in here are PDFs. Some of them are forms, they're blue, PDFs are red. It's very helpful to be able to add outside forms to my template because I want to be able to get that affiliated business arrangement signed or get that local area disclosure signed with my offer. And I don't want to have to remember every single time I start the transaction to bring those documents in. Okay. All right. Now that we've talked about templates, let's apply a template to our actual transaction and see what that process looks like. We're going to start from the Zip form side because I think a lot of you are still using Zip form. Let's start there. So from within Zip, I am going to start a new transaction. This time I'm going to be starting it in Zip form. This is going to be a new purchase. And you'll notice that there's only 2 things that are required here: the name of the transaction and the category. That's it. Everything else is optional. I'm going to name the transaction with the address of the property. Okay. So drop that address in there. You'll notice that I put the address as the name, but I'm also being asked here to add the property address. And there's a very specific reason why. We're going to break this dialog box down into a few component parts. Okay. So we have the name of the transaction. We have MLS Connect here. And then all of this, box this up a little bit. All of this is actually going to be Record Connect. So everything, the property address, street address, all this stuff is connected to Record Connect. Okay. MLS Connect is kind of off on its own over here. This is separate, even though it's in line with the property address, which is really, really confusing. MLS Connect is its own thing, and Record Connect is its own thing as well. These are two separate tools that we're using that are kind of combined and squished a little too close to each other than I would like. But if I drop the street address in here, if I grab the city, I grab the zip code. As soon as I put in that state, we'll notice that zip form Record Connect becomes available. I'm also going to use MLS Connect to bring in information about this property. Today I'm logged into Claw MLS. We'll drop the MLS ID in there. I want the photo as well. Click find. This is going to bring in address, city, state, zip. The list price is looks like 2.88 listed last month. It's also going to bring in the other agent's information. Super, super helpful. So now, what have we done so far? We named our transaction. We told the system what the address is. We told the system what the MLS ID was, so that we're going to pull in information from public record. We're going to pull in information from the MLS. Our template is going to apply. And as soon as we click residential, my automatically applied template comes in as well. So a lot of things are going to happen. We put a little bit of information in here, and a lot of information is going to be pulled in automatically for us. This is going to ask me, okay, who is the owner of this property? There's the owner. We have the legal description. You'll notice that MLS Connect brought in a good amount of information, but Record Connect is going to fill in the gaps. So we have a legal description here that came in from Record Connect. If we look behind all of this, the legal description did not come in from MLS Connect. So when we are using Record Connect, we will be able to fill in the full picture of this property and have all the good information that we need. My party information, my information was in here from my template. The listing agent and the seller are going to be brought in here. I need to add my buyer to this. So I'm going to use the address book. I'm going to bring in my good buddy, Ricardo. All of his information is in here, looking good. I already have him saved to the address book, so we don't need to save him again. But I do want to talk about, again, the parts of this dialog box and what we're working with here. So you'll notice that up top, I have the buyer. We have first name, last name, email. These are all the required fields that you need. But down below, I have a signing representative. And I want to focus on the signing representative right now. There are two very distinct transaction parties here. We have the transaction party. This is your client. And then down here, we have the person signing on behalf of your client. So if your client ends up being an entity, so let's say that this is the Ricardo Mendonca Trust, right? Your client is the entity. Your client is the trust. Your client is not Ricardo. Ricardo is the one that represents your client, is the representative of your client. So we have to kind of disconnect things a little bit. This is very important for the signing, because everything that you type in up top under buyer one, you need to fill in the name of the actual human being that's signing down below. So the full name of the trust, the full name of the entity goes in the first name line up top. First name, last name, email, minimum, needs to be in the bottom. This is a question that I get very, very often. And one of the reasons why people don't fill this out correctly is because a lot of people are still using the cover sheet. Okay. So I need to have the email down here. I'm going to intentionally leave it blank so that we can see what happens when we leave it blank. Because again, this is something that pops up quite often. So I have the name of the entity. I have the email address. I've filled in the name of the person signing, and we're going to click save. So now I have a buyer, a seller, a listing and selling agent, I have a few disclosure companies. Everything's looking good. We can move on to the contract. And yada, yada, yada. I'm ready to get this signed. I'm going to check the box for the RPA. And then I have plenty of ways to start a signature packet. Let's talk about the first two obvious ones. So on the summary tab of the transaction, the very top left button here is new e-sign. From the documents tab, we have same spot, different name. We have an e-sign button. Those are the two ways. When I am in the document, there are two other ways to start a signature packet. Up at the top, we have this big blue button that says prepare signing. And then down here, you see this little pencil icon? We have that pencil icon once again that just says sign. These two buttons work slightly different than one another. Let's talk about that. If I have multiple documents in the workspace, if I hit prepare signing, everything is going. Both of those documents are going to the packet. But if I hit this sign button here, it's going to ask me, okay, please select one or more documents. So the prepare signing up top is all. The one down below is selective. So if I have two, say I have 4 documents in my workspace here, but I only want to get the RPA signed. If I check the box for that one and I click the sign button, I've now selected just that one document to send for signature. That goes for the email, the download, the print. All of these require that you select one of the documents in your workspace. Now, the print and download up top work just like the big prepare signing. If I hit print up here, everything's getting printed. If I hit download here, everything's getting downloaded. So these top level buttons are all full sweep. Down below, these are all selective. You have to select one or more of the documents to act upon. Okay. I want to only send the RPA right now. So I'm going to click that sign button. And now we get this dialog box to create the signing. I would say 9 out of 10 realtors that I work with leave that signing name as the name of the document. You should not be doing that. Every single signing that you create should have a unique name. Every single signing that you create should have a unique name. The advice that I give people is if you were going to email this offer to your client, if you just wanted to send them a copy for them to view, forget about the signing right now. If I was going to email them this document, what would the subject line be? Because this signing name is going to end up as the subject line of the invitation. So whatever I send to my client, if I send them something that says, the address and the word offer, simple enough, doesn't have to be anything specific. So I'm going to put the street name and the word offer. Doesn't have to be more complicated than that. If you want to create some sort of naming convention that follows a pattern that works for you, do it. More power to you. Your client should be able to search their email tomorrow, a month from now, a year from now, and intelligently and effectively find this packet. The other problem is if I left this as just the standard name of the document, if I send them an offer a week from now for a different property and I leave it the same name, they're going to end up with a bunch of emails that stack on one another. See this little 2 here? That means that there are 2 emails. Even though this is one line of email, there are two emails in this conversation. And when I click into one of them, see how one of them is collapsed and one of them is here? So I'm only seeing the most recent one. But a lot of times it's going to show up like this. It's going to collapse and not show everything. And they're going to click on one and they're going to end up clicking something old. So we want to separate all of our packets so that they don't thread, they don't collapse on one another like this. Okay. Gmail is notorious for that, but most emails do that. They thread the conversations together. And if you have the same subject line for all the emails, you're going to run into tons and tons of problems. So we're going to name this with the street name and the word offer. For zip, I'm not going to choose a return folder. That is optional. So what's going to happen is the name of the packet is going to be the name of the folder where the documents return. Again, this is helpful to know what's in that folder without having to open it when you're in your ZipForm account. I'm going to click create. I'm going to skip the survey. This is going to take us into this environment, this Authentisign environment. Maybe at this point, I forgot to change the signing name and I want to update it. I can do that right here. Even though I'm in the editor, I forgot the word, or I forgot the road suffix on there. No problem. I can update it right here. The document has no tags on it because I haven't added any participants yet. You notice that this doesn't say signers, it says participants because there are different types of participants. If we add from the transaction, we went through all that trouble to add ourselves and add the seller and the listing agent and our client. We added all of their contact information to the transaction already. But remember, it says Ricardo Mendonca Trust. When I add from the transaction, we see that only Ricardo's name is showing up there because he is the signing party. He is signing on behalf of my client, which is the entity. Ricardo is not my client. Just want to drill that into your brain. Ricardo's not my client. The trust is my client, and Ricardo is signing on behalf of. He's an agent of the entity. So I'm going to choose Ricardo. I'm going to choose myself. And we're both going to be remote signers in this instance. So I have the option to be a remote signer. I can be a reviewer, which means I am not marking the document in any way, but I am giving it the thumbs up, thumbs down, gladiator style. I can stop this packet in its tracks if I decline, if I don't approve of this packet. The reviewer feature in here, I don't see a lot of use of in California. I know that some brokers, let's say you hire a new agent that's still very, very green. Maybe you want to have them add you as a reviewer on their first few packets that they send out so that you can verify they're not sending out wildly incorrect or inaccurate offers or documentation. Some people want to have their TC be a reviewer on there so that the TC can fine tooth comb, go through what they sent and find errors before the client actually fully signs it. There's reasons why. We also have a CC. Now, to add someone as a CC party, they have no bearing over the success of the packet. They're just going to receive a signed or the final copy of this packet once it's done, but they have no bearing over the success. So remote signers can just not sign, and that will stop or pause the process. We can always skip them, but remote signers and reviewers do have some control over the success of the packet. For our purposes, we're both going to be remote signers. Okay. I'm just sending it to myself and my client. Once I click select, you'll notice that I'm yellow, he's blue. Oh, but we have a problem. Remember, I left off a piece of information on Ricardo's information here. So if I click on his name, it's going to highlight in red, hey, you're missing an email. So let's take care of that. I'm going to grab the email address that I want to use for him. I'm going to update the transaction contact as well. So this is going to send that email that I'm putting in here into the transaction as well, so that on future packets, I don't have to enter the email address. So smart. For this, I put Ricardo in as the entity. He actually called me and says, you know what? I want my signature to actually show as Rick. So we're going to put in Rick. Make sure the last name's in there. And his initials, he wants his middle name to be in there as well. J R C M. Okay. This is the way that he wants his stuff to show up. So you'll see that the RM switches to RCM, and now his signature will show up as Rick. His initials will be RCM. We'll have a middle initial in there as well. We can accommodate that for our client. If I want to set a signing order, so I want to specify that I get the email first and then my client gets it second, we can do that. There are situations, and I'll just add a bunch of people for to drive my point home. If I have 5 signers, let's say, okay, so we have buyer 1, buyer 2, selling agent. Yep, this is all good. If I have 5 signers in here, maybe I want me and my broker to get the packet first. So now see how we're linked. We're both number 1 here. I want Ricardo to get it second, and then I want the listing side to receive them at the same time. I can set up more, not complicated, but more specific orders here. So Debbie and myself are going to get the email first. Ricardo will get it second, and then the listing side will get it third. I can set up these more complicated signing orders if need be, or I can just turn it off and everybody will get the signature, the signing invitation all at the same time. I'm going to remove the people I don't need from here. So we're only sending it to myself and Ricardo. So once we go through here and we see, okay, this is looking fine, we send it out. And now we can set some reminders. So by default, 30 days is going to be the time that this packet will be active. Some realtors I talk to say, well, I don't want to wait 30 days. You know, today is the 9th of June. If they don't sign this by Thursday, I want this packet to be dead. And this is good because sometimes you send a packet out, your client sits on it, and then they realize a couple of days later, you know, I actually want to change some of the details. And maybe you don't feel comfortable editing that first packet and you just send a whole new packet. You're better off if you have a very short leash on that expiration. But I'm going to show you how to reuse the same packet and just update certain pieces of information so that we're not sending out 4 or 5 packets to get one thing signed. I'm going to send a reminder every day at 9 a.m. I know that Ricardo's an engineer and he does not check his email after, you know, lunch for each day. It's already 3:36. He's not going to check his email today. So he's going to get an email, but tomorrow at 9 a.m., he's going to get a fresh, crisp, clean new email. Okay. And I can send this out. So this is going to go out to Ricardo. It's going to go out to me. And while we're waiting for that, are there any questions that you have so far about this signature packet? Okay. I can see the status, the current status of my signature packet from the e-sign tab here. This is the number 5 way to start a packet. Again, we have this button that says new that's on the e-sign tab of the transaction, and we can start a new packet from here as well. So just to go over it again, summary, we click new e-sign. Documents, we click e-sign. In the documents themselves, we have the prepare signing and we have the pencil icon under the workspace. And we also have the e-sign button and click new that's number 5 ways that we can start a signature packet. Too many ways, in my opinion, but it works. I can see here that this packet has been sent. There are 2 participants. When I hover over the participants, I can see both of the names. If there's a checkbox, a little check mark in front of the name, that means that that person has already signed. When I click into the packet itself, it's going to give me information like, when was this created? Is there a signing order set? This is not. I can see the individual forms and certificates. If it's been signed yet, I can see the history of the packet. Under signers, we have these 2 columns here, authenticated and approved. Authenticated means that they have opened the email and clicked on the begin signing link. Approved means that they've finished all of their signing tasks. Okay. So let me see if that email came in for me. Let's see. So my email came in. So I'm going to start signing for myself. So I accept, start. I only have a few in here. It's all good. I complete my portion of the signing. So now let's see that get updated. Navigate away and come back. So now when we hover over the participants, we see that there's a little checkbox next to my name because I've completed my portion of it. And we can see that I've not only been authenticated, but I've also been approved. My client got the email inviting him to sign as well. Again, the subject line has the name of the signing in it. It also has the name of the signing in the body of the email. So not only are they going to see it in the subject, but they're also going to see it right before they start signing exactly what they will be signing. Super important. I'm going to click start. My client's going to click start signing. It's going to bring them in. They're going to accept that terms of service and they're going to start signing. So he starts signing and then he's reviewing the offer and he goes, oh, you know what? I want to change something in here. I didn't put any details in here. So let's go down that route. I forgot to put a loan amount on here. I go, oh no, I forgot to put a loan amount on here. My client's going to close this out and call me and text me and say, hey, there's no loan amount on there. And I go, oh no. Some of you are going to go back to the RPA, or maybe let's back out of this and do it a more efficient way here. Some of you are going to go in and make those changes in the contract and then send a brand new packet because we got egg on our face. The offer date's going to be today. Offer is going to expire tomorrow. Purchase price, this was listed for, what did I say, 2.8. So we are going to come in aggressive at 2,9,500. 295, no, not 2,9,500. 295, which means our deposit, we're just going to go 50,000 would be easy. Okay. Contract date is today. We don't have a closing date. So now we need to put in a loan amount because I forgot to put a loan amount in. So if we're doing 295, let's do some napkin math. 295. We're going to do 60% loan. 1.7. Okay. So first is going to be 177. All right. So now we have a loan amount. I'm going to click save. So I have now updated the form, but how do I get that into my packet? So this is what we're going to do. On the eSign tab of my transaction, the eSign tab here, I have this packet. This packet, my client opened it. I signed it. He has not signed it yet, but this packet is dead. This packet contains a document that has old information in it. I have a couple options. I can either delete this packet and start new, or I can start a whole new packet. But what I want to do is salvage this packet. So what I'm going to go in and I'm going to say reset. Reset is going to lose all of the current signed progress. So my signature is going to go away. The history that we've opened the document is going to go away. This is going to take us back to the moment before we first clicked send on this packet. The moment before we clicked send on this packet. All of our information about him being Rick is still going to be in there. The reminders that we have set are going to be every day at 9 a.m. That's still going to be there. But instead, when we flip through here, we see that, oh, this one has no information in there. That's okay. I'm going to go to documents. I'm going to remove this one. And I'm going to add the one that we just modified just a minute ago. Now, this one has the good information in it. And I know this feels weird, right? We're trying to wrap our head around what we just did. But I want to give you that example. Okay, so I handed my client a folder, and inside that folder was an offer. And the client looked at the offer and said, oh, this one is bad. And so I said, oh, no problem. I took it. I threw away the bad one. I got the new one and I replaced it and I'm handing it to my client. We've done this 1,000 times. You print something out, you're ready and you go, oh, this one's bad. Toss it out, go print another one, grab the good one. And we're just replacing it. That's all we're doing is replacing the bad one with the good one. So now that I've replaced it, when I scroll through here, we have all of our information, our purchase price, our loan amount, our deposits. We have now effectively salvaged this packet, which is super, super important. We're able to use the same packet and not have to reinvent the wheel. One big thing that I want you to remember is I want to update the name of the signing. I'm going to say this is updated. The reason why I'm doing that is because I want this to be unique. Every single signing packet should be unique. This is, in essence, a new packet. It's like we put a stamp on it, and then we took the stamp off and we put a new stamp on. Even though we're using the same envelope, it's a different packet. The contents are different. So the subject line of the email needs to be different. Okay. The reason why is that, let's say that we didn't update this. Let's take this a step further before we move forward with this. I want to add another document in here. I'm going to add, I'm going to upload. What am I going to upload? I had an idea. Oh, that's the one. Okay. I'm going to upload a local area disclosure. This is something that needs to get signed by my client. This is an outside document. Let's scroll all the way down to it. This is an outside document. Okay. This is something that's not going to tag automatically for my client. So on our agenda of things we're going to talk about, this is using outside forms in signings. Okay. So I need to put the property address here. So I have a couple options to add the property address. When we go to signing tools, all of our signing tools are either yellow or they're blue, and they are signed to a signer. But what I want to do is mark up the document as if I'm writing in pen on the document prior to giving it to my client. So I'm going to grab a text box. I'm going to drop that text box in here. I'm going to grab the address of the property. I'm going to drop that in there. Let's stretch it out a little bit so it's on one line. And now I have a line here for buyer. I need the buyer's name. It's pretty simple. When I make sure I'm on Ricardo, I'm going to grab full name. And now I have the buyer's name. When I scroll through here, there's all these neighborhood conditions. It's all good. We're going to grab the name once again. We're going to grab a signature from here. That will pull out a date as well. I need his email address. I have a preset thing for that. So I have the client's name, his signature, his email address, the date that he signed. I can also add the time if need be, if I want to get very, very specific with it. I'm tagging this document manually because this is not a zip form. It's not a form library form. This is an outside document that requires manual tagging. But this markup is not going to be editable by the client. I'm literally marking up the document. So this is not assigned to any one person in this packet. Okay. Click next. I'll set that the reminder again. This is going to expire on the 11th. They're going to send reminders at 9 a.m. And now that we've sent this out, let me show you why we updated the name of the signing. Okay. So this says signature requested for Sierra Lago, the offer. This one doesn't say updated like this one. Let's say that we had left it with the wrong name and they got confused and it got collapsed and then they click on the wrong packet. This one's going to say, no problem. This signing has been reset. It's been reset to its initial state. So they are not going to be able to sign the wrong offer. Instead, they're going to get a new email with a new subject line, different lines here. That's going to say updated offer. And when they start signing, it's going to take them right where they were before. And they're going to click through here. They're going to say, okay, great. All this information's here. We're looking good. They're going to click through and get to all of the required initials. And then it's going to bring us to the optional ones. They can accept or decline. Accept or decline. And then all the required ones that are necessary. And then we'll get to the local area disclosure. See the name up here. The client's name is here. They're going to sign. It already has his name, his email. As soon as I sign it, you see that the time and the date updated, and he can complete his signing. I will get my email with the updated signing. And while I'm waiting for that, I can go into eSign and I can see that, hey, look, there's only one packet and it shows updated. And it shows that Ricardo has already signed. Fantastic. I'm going to sign my portion of it, which is not very many signatures here. We'll complete the signing. I'm going to get an email when my client signed it that says signing updated. Now that I've signed it, I'm going to get an email saying signing completed. That email will have the final documents in there. It will also have a link to the signing certificate, which we'll talk about in a second. But my packet here is now going to show as completed. And it's going to show that both of us have authenticated, both of us have signed. Our action items are a bit different now. We can view the signed PDF, we can view the signed certificates, we can duplicate this whole packet if need be. The email that we get that says signing complete is going to, not that one, is going to show, once it comes in, maybe we'll look at this one. There it goes, signing complete. It's going to have to download a copy of the signed documents. They can go here. That's going to download the PDF, combined PDF of not only the offer, but also the local area disclosure. So both of the documents are going to be one PDF, which is fantastic. We can also get to the signing certificate. And this is important for you to know about. This is the receipt for the signing. It's going to show you what the certificate ID is. So we see that on the documents themselves, that certificate ID is going to be the Authentisign ID up here at the very top left of the document. We'll see that what the name of the signing was, what the ID was, when did it start, how many signers are there. So it's going to show us that on the RPA, there's 29 pages. There were 12 signing blocks, 18 initials. On the local area disclosure, there's 2 pages, 1 signing block, no initials. It's going to show us the email addresses for the people that signed. It will also show what the image of the signatures should look like so that we can spot a fake or a fraud or some sort of discrepancy in the signing. This is your receipt. The rest of this is boilerplate consumer disclosure information. But if someone ever questions the validity of your signing, this is the document that is going to be the receipt to show when it was signed, by whom, where they signed it. This has the IP address of the person that signed as well. This is very traceable, very trackable. This is your receipt, okay? Very important that we are aware of where to find this. So in Zip form, we have the individual forms and we have the certificates on a per document basis. We have the signed certificate, which is for the entire packet. A lot of options here, okay? This is using Authentisign from Zip form. Let's look at the process now. If there's no questions, let's look at the process from the Transact side, okay? So I'm going to jump into Transact. And let's say that we are going to, I don't know if I have Ricardo in here. Even better. I'm going to add, if I don't already have Ricardo, I'm going to add Ricardo as a relationship opportunity. Not Robert, Ricardo. He is a buyer. He is actively searching. He is a hot client. He's looking in the US. He's looking in Irvine. And let's just say he's looking for a 3-bedroom, 3-bath with 2,000 square feet. That's good. What's what he's looking for. His timing is immediate. He wants to find something like now. His max budget is, let's just say 2 million. So now we have Ricardo in here as a hot prospect. I've been sending him properties from the MLS. And he says, you know what? I found one that I want to write an offer on. We're going to start the agreement right here from the deal tracker. It's a purchase. We're going to import the listing data. This time it's going to be from, once again, from Claw. I'm going to drop that one in there. Property information's been imported. We're going to apply my template. My template, very similar structure, closing documents, offer documents, agency relationship. I have a few documents in here. I have an ABA, a local area disclosure. I have my assistant in here as a party in the template. I have a couple to-dos, my offer, my closing, general stuff like we looked at the beginning of this. We have the photo of the property, address, city, state, zip. This was listed. This is $3 million, even better. This is residential, built in 71. If I need to add more information here, I can, but I think we're good. We can move on to the offer. So our purchase price is going to be $1,003,250. Our deposit is going to be 50 grand. Offer date's going to be today. Offer is going to expire tomorrow because we're aggressive. And then we have some conditions in here. For now, I'm not going to add any conditions because I want to focus on the signing portion of it. But let's add some conditions anyway. So we're going to add sale of buyer's property is going to be so we're going to say 15 days before the closing date, we are going to remove our sale of buyer contingency. And I know that this is probably not the way that you would structure it, but I just want to show that we can do things before the closing date. We can say that I want a pre-close inspection, and we're going to make that seven days before the possession date. We're going to do a pre-close inspection. I want to change the home inspection contingency to be 17 days after the offer acceptance. We can start adding conditions in here. These are not going to translate to the actual document, the offer document, but this is going to inform our transaction with timeline events based on these specific closing date, possession date, offer acceptance date. Once we put those dates in there, this will calculate those days for us. It will add it to our timeline. It'll add it to our calendar, and we'll be able to use those things to manage our transaction to the best of our ability. Next, we need to move on to the party. So I started this as a purchase, so it knows that I'm the buyer's agent. My admin is in here from my template. Arthur and Balboa Realty, these are both going to show up as the listing side. My client is Ricardo. That came in from the deal tracker because it knew that I was starting the offer from here. I'm going to update Ricardo's email to not a fake email, just so I can show you. And we're going to create the transaction. So we have all of the documents added from our template. Very similar to the way that we set it up in Zip. When we open up our document, our template had like the buyer box checked so that we don't have to think about that. Our template had a 30-day close of escrow. It had the buyer and seller boxes here. The import MLS brought in the DRE number for the listing side. I shortened some of my loan and appraisal contingencies. Now I put in on my timeline that we were going to do 17 days for the investigation contingency, and that stays here. I shortened my loan and my appraisal down a few days. I'm not showing you how to fill out the offer. I'm just showing you some functionality and demonstrating some of the tools that we have at our disposal. Let's quickly just get the lay of the land here because this looks a bit different, the form editor, than the way that it did in ZipForm. So let me pull up my ZipForm account so you can get a better idea. We can go side by side here. When I sign in through CAR, this is going to bring me into Transact because that's what I'm currently in. And I'll navigate back into Zip. Okay. So we'll open up our Sierra Lago. All right. So I have my RPA open. This blue and white, this is the ZipForm side. The green and white is Transact. Now, from the top here, we'll notice that things are very, very similar. We still have our paperwork, our add paperwork. We have forms and documents tab. That forms and documents tab is over on the right-hand side in Zip. And the reason why it's now on the left-hand side is because people in Zip were saying, hey, well, when I look at the parties, the documents go away. When I look at listing info, I get confused about how to get back to my documents. So now, regardless of whether you're in the parties, listing info, offer info, the forms and documents are always on the left-hand side. You always see them. This was feedback that they got. Things work the same way. We have the workspace, even though it doesn't say workspace anymore, this is the workspace. They've removed all of these icons up here to sign, email, print, download, all that good stuff. When you select a document, all of those items come up here at the bottom. So functionally, we have the same options to do the same stuff. We have prepare signing up at the top. Again, that's a full send. Everything in the workspace is going when you hit prepare signing. I have to be selective if I want to get just single things signed. But generally, this works exactly the same way. Just some of the buttons have been moved around. We now have, rather than a back button here over on the right, the back button is always going to be in the top left for everything in Transact. To get back to the previous screen is always going to be in the top left. But the editor works the same way. The documents are the same. We just have to learn the lay of the land a little bit. Okay. So if I want to get this particular offer signed, I'm going to prepare signing. Same story. We need to give this a unique name. So this is going to be Sierra Sienna offer. This is going to ask that we set a return folder. This is no longer an optional thing here. So I want to put this in my offer documents, and we're going to create that signing. Now, from this point, when we get into Authentisign, all of the steps are exactly the same as they were. This is the same exact Authentisign that we've been using, that we just demoed for the last 40 minutes in Zip. Nothing is different. So we're still going to go through all the steps to add from our transaction. We have ourselves, we have our client, we still have remote signer, reviewer, CC, all that good stuff. The tools are exactly the same. Signing order, setup, this is exactly the same as we just saw in Zip. Some of the additional options that we have are in the tools here. Let's talk about some of the tools. We still have all of our markup tools. We have our signer actions, our signer fields. Let's talk about layouts a little bit. So once again, I want to, let's do my affiliated business agreement. Yeah, let's do that one. So we're going to add the affiliated business agreement to our packet here. And when we go to that document here, this is a one-page document, but this is generally going to be this is going to be a document that I'm going to use over and over again. So rather than having to tag it for a signature every single time, I'm going to start using what's called a layout. So this first time, I do have to tag it manually. Okay. So I'm going to grab the name of the client. We're going to grab their email address. I'm going to grab the client's signature right here. I'm going to shrink it down a little bit so it fits better on the line. I can do that with the handles here, or I can use this scale here to shrink it down. I'm going to go kind of small with it. The date we're going to grab down here. I'm also going to, once again, grab that time. So I'm tagging the document. Now, I want the system to remember the way that I've tagged this for future signings. So I'm going to click on layouts. Under layout options, I'm going to create a layout. And for this ABA, we're going to call this our ABA buyer. Okay. We're going to create that new layout. Perfect. So now, maybe we send this out. We're going to make this again expire on the 11th. We're going to send a reminder every day at 10 a.m. So now we've sent out that offer. Okay. Let's get the offer signed, and then we can look at what that next step is. So the client is going to clickety clickety click to sign everything that they need to sign. Even the optional ones. And they're also going to sign my ABA. Complete that. All good. Back inside of my account here. Let's give it a little refresh. We can see that Ricardo has authenticated and he has been approved. He's completely finished his portion of it. I have the same options that I had before. I can resend the invitations from here. Click resend. That'll send the invitation once again to people that haven't signed. I can reset this packet like we did before, knock it back to that moment before we click send. I can duplicate the packet. I can delete the packet from here if need be. We're going to let this one get completed. And then we can look at next steps. Just waiting for my invitation here. Maybe I didn't get it. If I need to edit my signer here. Oh, let's just take off that plus. Let's check it now. So if I need to update the email address, I can do that from here. Hasn't come in yet. Let's see. Questions while we're waiting for this to come in? You guys are so quiet. We're an hour and 6 minutes in and no questions yet. Okay. I'm going to sign my portion of this. So I'm going to choose how I want my signature to show up. And I don't want my name to show up twice. Oh, but it's not going to let me out. We'll just draw it then. My name was set up incorrectly. It's fine. So back in here, we have a fully signed offer. The shows as sent. Let's give it a little time to update. We have duplicate, we have delete. All right, now it shows as complete. So now that it's complete, when we go into the paperwork here, that signed ABA, that signed offer now show up as status signed. Okay. So at this point, I don't need that ABA anymore, and I don't need that RPA anymore. So I have a couple options here. I can leave them be. I can delete them. It's really up to me what I want to do with them. For now, I think I'm going to delete them so that we only have the signed copies in there. For my own work, that makes sense for me. So let's say that I submit this RPA. Okay. Actually, that's fine. I submitted my offer. I heard back from the listing agent that they are not going to accept my offer. So now I'm going to mark this as rejected. I'm going to take off Arthur and Balboa. I'm still working with Ricardo. Stacy's still my admin. My conditions are still going to be the same. The sale of buyer property, the pre-close inspection, all that good stuff. I'm not going to keep the RPA in here. I'm going to not check the RPA, but I do want to keep that affiliated business arrangement. because that's going to carry over to the next one. So I won't need to get that one signed. I will reset and copy. And now notice that I lost that RPA. So maybe I didn't want to delete that RPA, but you can see how that would be enticing to delete it. In the future, I probably won't delete it. I'll keep it in there so that if I do need to write up another offer, I can do that. So for this next offer, I'm going to pull in from the California MLS once again. We're going to use a property that we've used before, that Sierra Lago offer. This was listed for, I don't remember what it was for, 2.8. We're going to come in at 2.950 again with a $50,000 deposit. Offers today, expires tomorrow. No acceptance, no possession, nothing like that. We still have all of our conditions in here, and we can start adding paperwork. Now I have a couple options when I add paperwork. If I add it from this add paperwork button up here, when I add it, it's going to get added to a folder called not filed. And that's not really what I want. Okay. Instead, well, it's not a big deal. I could grab the handles and move it into my offer documents here if I want to. But if I want to add it directly to the offer documents, I can click on the three little dots and say add paperwork. And I can add that RPA and it will automatically go into this particular folder. Okay. So for this, when I open this up, I think because I deleted it, we're not going to have that same information that pulled in from my template. So the buyer box is not going to be checked. So see why we might want to not delete that offer when we are resetting, when we get something signed. We might want to leave some of that information in there. But for this, we're all good. Now, if I needed to get that ABA signed again, okay, let's go back. Let's add some paperwork, and I'm going to upload that ABA once again so that we can see what that process would be like. I did the, so now I have that PDF of the ABA again. I'm going to delete this one, even though it's already signed. For demonstrative purposes, I want you to see what that process is going to look like. So we're going to prepare signing. I'm going to grab the, word transact so that it's unique and specific. Okay, so now that I get back into transact, I'm getting into Authentisign. I have that ABA again. This time I'm going to get it signed like it's the first time. But the difference is once I add these people from the transaction, we're going to add Ricardo, we're going to add myself. I'm going to preemptively fix my email address in here. So now when I go down to this affiliated business arrangement, I want to apply my layout. So I'm going to say for the ABA, looks like I had already done this before. I'm going to assign that layout and it's going to say, okay, the buyer, and it's going to tag it for me. Very simple. So when you have documents that you use on a regular basis that you're going to have to manually tag every time, you can create a layout for that to make it even easier. Okay. This is helpful. I'm going to back out of this and I want to show you one different thing here. So for every transaction that we get into escrow, we are legally required to provide an agent visual inspection, the AVID, right? So for closing documents here, I'm going to bring in my AVID number 1. Now, in my AVID, maybe I have a lot to say in here, right? For the entry, maybe I want to add from my clause library, my nothing to note. And once I bring that in there, copy it, just say nothing to note, nothing to note. Obviously, you want to put something in there, but I'm just going to put in some information in here. Up at the top, I want to make sure that my brokerage firm shows up. So I'm putting CAR in here. That is going to show up on this page as well. You see how this is not an editable field. It's pulling from up above. I want to make sure that real estate broker, that it shows up as me. The inspection date was today. The weather conditions, let's say that it was sunny. And who else was present? The buyer and the inspector. And I have my client information here. This is good to go. This is ready to be sent for signature. But when we take this into Authentisign, Avid for, let's grab the street again. When we bring this into Authentisign and we add our participants from the transaction. So again, we're going to add us and our client. You'll notice that we only have mapping for the buyer and the seller, right? So our buyer has their initial here and here and here, but our information doesn't auto tag because this is the broker that performed the inspection. It could be the listing agent. It could be the buyer's agent. Because there's not a one-to-one relationship for this field, it's not going to tag automatically. So this is where we have a bit of a fork in the road, okay? We could very easily just, select our self here and just tag the document and not really think anything of it. But what's going to happen? This means that we are a remote signer. We're going to have to wait for an email to come in to sign this document. We have some options here. I'm going to remove myself from the signing completely. And instead, I'm going to have Ricardo as a remote signer. And when I go to tools here, we'll notice that there's this one that's like the markup tools that doesn't have color coding. It's called myself. And all of these signatures, initials, they're all black and white. They're not color coded. So if I grab the sign here, this is going to ask me to accept the terms of service as if I'm a remote signer. And I'm going to accept, and I'm going to draw my signature, and I'm going to set my signature. And I just signed the document. I didn't have to wait for an email. I signed it right then and there. You can use these signing tools, the myself in there, to sign right on the spot. So this is something that people were asking because DocuSign allows you to sign your portion of it right then and there. Authentisign can do that too. So when there's a document like this that just needs one signature, maybe a couple signatures, maybe a couple initials, something, when it's light work, this is a very, very useful tool to just get it signed right then. Only you can sign it like this. When it comes to something that needs, 14 initials and 10 signatures, this is probably not the way to go. I would probably just lean on the auto tagging that the document will do to make you a remote signer. But when in doubt and you just need to sign a couple places, use this. You don't have to wait for the email. It's just done. Very, very simple. Okay. So now when I send this to my client, check the client to email. When I send this to my client and they start signing the Avid here, they're going to initial it, and look at that. It's already signed by me. Didn't have to wait. It's just automatically signed. And so now when they complete their signing, this is a fully executed document. And only one person had to get an email. Super, super helpful, right? I love this feature. I think it's very, very useful. Okay. So we talked about how to start a signing in Zip, how to start one in Transact. We talked about the differences between the two platforms, using outside forms for signings, integrating our templates. Talked about some of the best practices for, using either system, whether you're a beginner or a more advanced power user. I'm going to open up the questions, and we'll wait for some questions to come in. Overall, if you know how to use Authentisign in zip form, you already know how to use it in Transact. The where places get a little bit different is just this managing of the packet from the Avid side. But when we have like a draft, for example, when we jump in here, when we send these for signature, we still have all of the same tools. We can resend our invitations. We can reset the packet. We can duplicate. We can view the signing details. We can change the email addresses if need be. Maybe we notice a spelling error. We can see whether they've been authenticated or whether they've been approved. We can still get to all of the signed certificates, the signed PDFs. We can duplicate and delete the packet completely from here. We have all of the history. This is even more detailed than the certificate itself. We can do a lot with Authentisign. This is your member benefit. You don't pay anything out of pocket to use Authentisign, and it is a very, very powerful, feature-packed signature platform. And because we have this new foundation platform, we can start assigning from outside of any transaction. This doesn't have to be attached to a transaction. You see that I have some of these drafts in here that are not assigned to a specific transaction. So I've used this for my kid's school, needed something signed, and I threw it in here and I signed it with them myself. Done. Like the dance studio needed me to sign a waiver, signed it in here, sent it back. This is a very useful tool now because it doesn't have to be tied to a transaction. We can use this outside of the transactions and use this as a regular signing tool. Very, very helpful. Let's see. Any other questions here? At this time, Transact is only integrated with Authentisign. DocuSign will be integrated at some point. It's not integrated right now. Zipform has DocuSign and Authentisign integrated in. Transact is working on the DocuSign side, but right now, the deep, deep integration with the signing platform with Authentisign is already there. It's already built in. It's baked in there. I highly suggest that you try jumping on the Transact wagon. I do not think that you will regret it. I saw a demo of the new transaction coordinator role in Transact yesterday, and it's fantastic. It's going to be life-changing for a lot of TCs. But so stick around for that. That should be coming by the end of the month. If there are any questions after the fact, I'll give you my email address. You can email me. Let me know if you thought of something later or if you want to chat it out. Transact has been out since October 1st of last year. So we've had it for going on 7 months, 8 months almost. Everyone has access to Transact. Okay. Stick around for another couple minutes. See if any questions come in. If you're going to jump off, my name is Jackson. I'm the Senior Transaction and Training Supervisor here at CAR. I want to thank the Orange County Association for having me host this training. They care about you, and they care about you having the most up-to-date training for you. It's great. We're very grateful to have such a wonderful local association. Without any further ado, if there's no questions, we can end. I appreciate all of you. Let's get out there and make some money, guys. Bye-bye.